I thought your analysis of this book was spot on. You've called Harry despicable for trying to trash the royal family's reputation and dragging them below even what the Kardashians would get up to. So from an American perspective, do you think he has succeeded in damaging the monarchy, or is the biggest damage actually to the brand of himself and Meghan?
Good question.
Without question, to himself and Meghan, I think that Americans were split 50-50 maybe a couple of months ago when it came to Harry and Meghan. But the problem is that they can't close their mouths and they just keep talking, and it seems more and more petty. I mean, I was early on this. When Meghan and Harry were still in the royal family and living at Frogmore, I wrote an open statement on Twitter, which you can go back and look, that she was going to end up back in the United States and in Los Angeles because I just saw her coming. She's a D-list actress, and all she's ever wanted to do was be invited to A-list events.
Are you sure about that?
And she's been a social climber from the beginning. She married somebody the first time to socially climb. And for her, Harry was just an entry ticket into all of those circles. Unfortunately, she found someone. She's not very intelligent. She's not very talented. Nobody in America was watching Suits. She was an actress that was living in Canada. And fortunately for her, and credit to her, she found someone that is dumber than her. And that's the truth, is that Harry's just not a very smart person.
I said, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait, first of all, you're not going to speed past that like you didn't just say what you just said.
If there's one thing that this book definitely is not, it's a good advertisement for Eton, right? I mean, if I'm thinking about whether or not I want to send my son Eton, I'm telling you, I'm thinking now, did this guy graduate? He begins his book with a quote he says is from brainyquote.com. And then he says he found out that it was from William Faulkner and thought to himself, who the F is William Faulkner? He put this in his book. It instantly lets you know how non-academic he is. And so you feel bad for him only because I do believe that he is a victim of his own stupidity. And I mean that, and I'm saying it heartfelt, just so you know.
Come on now, dog.
That is the best case scenario, is that Harry is a victim of his own stupidity. And he's also tremendously privileged. And when I read this book, I just said the new title, it should either be Spite or Privileged.
What do you mean by that?
He actually believes that the things that he has lived through has rendered him a victim. He thinks he goes in this prologue, he starts talking about attending, I believe, Eton College. I think it was the prologue. And he sort of recounts this story about how William said to him that he didn't want to hang out with him at school at Eton. That has happened in every family in the entire world. Siblings don't want to hang out with each other in school. You're trying to distance yourself from your siblings so you can establish yourself as a person. It doesn't make Harry a special individual. It makes him regular.
Fact.
That he had the nerve to put into his book that while living in Balmoral Castle, an actual castle, he details it has 50 rooms. And his gripe is that he had to share a room with William and that he got the bad half of the room.
That doesn't make sense.
In a castle with 50 rooms. Is this supposed to be relatable? It's not very relatable. Every person under the sun, as a younger sibling, forget being the heir or the spare, understands that the older sibling is afforded certain privileges, like the bigger room. That happens in households all across the world. But Harry actually believes that this is some slight against his childhood. And then I just want to add here, going back to why I do believe that he is a victim of his own stupidity. He writes this one paragraph where he details how he's always been the spare, right? He's always been the spare, and that he was told explicitly, he uses the word explicitly, that he existed to perhaps provide a spare kidney or some spare bone marrow.
So that was a lie.
Let me tell you, Dan, okay? I don't need fact checkers. That just never happens. Nowhere in the history of the world did anyone ever turn over to a younger sibling and say, you exist for a spare kidney for some spare bone marrow. That doesn't even how it works in the medical field. Just because you're a sibling doesn't mean that you're necessarily a match.
Fact.
So it's so ridiculous, and to me, it ranks as a great trove of comedy.
And I agree with all of that, right?
Okay.
But even a lack of intelligence, Candice, does not excuse the way that he has thrown his own flesh and blood under the bus to make millions and millions of dollars and seek a deranged sort of revenge because he's been manipulated by his wife. I mean, it's inexcusable the way that he talks about his father and his brother. And even, I couldn't believe this, he even slags off the late Queen and her late sister, Princess Margaret. It's almost like no one is safe from him.
Actually, the ugliest part is that he included his niece, Charlotte, crying over a bridesmaid dress. It's so remarkably petty. And the idea that you would use a toddler for book fodder and clearly excerpted text messages. We don't really know what's happened.
Are you sure about that?
He's being very careful to say, I don't know what this part is. His memory gets very foggy when we have the potential to receive some clarity about who his wife is, who's I think she is actually quite rude. She was quite rude to Kate. Memory gets foggy when it's convenient. Then he has sharp and crystal clear memory whenever he wants to basically sell to us that he and his wife are victims. Boring. But you are correct, and I will say this. Americans have a very big appetite for drama. That's
Prince Harry. Wow. Prince Harry. I don't know what's going on, man. I did not know that being a little bitch could be a brand, but apparently it is. And he's raking in a ton of money. And now you're going to be able to see him be a little bitch pay-per-view.
Stop it.
Yes, unbelievably. He is going to unpack his struggles with a trauma expert. This is, of course, a new age psychologist. And you can pay, I think that you have to pay $33.99 for access to Prince Harry as he unpacks his trauma, the trauma of his childhood. This entire event was coordinated by, of course, his book publisher. And the doctor is a Canadian doctor and an author. His name is Gabor Mate. And he is going to sit down with Harry and they're going to have an intimate conversation. And what Gabor Mate has said about this conversation, where they're going to unpack all of Prince Harry's emotional loss and trauma and his healing, he has said, quote, "In Spare, Prince Harry is very open about his mental health challenges, as I have been about in my own books. Such a public conversation, I hope, will help encourage more openness around mental health and contribute to remove the stigma around what we call mental illness." Yeah, I don't really think that Prince Harry is doing this for $33.99 because he wants to contribute to society, removing the stigma around mental illness. I think what he's potentially doing this for is because he wants to contribute to his own bank account. Now, call me crazy. This might be a conspiracy theory, but I think everything that him and Meghan are doing
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
might be because they want to contribute to their own bank account. Hear me out. It might be crazy, but maybe that whole book talking trash about his brother, flying to America, collecting all of this evidence, seeing everything as a dig against M. To dig against M. Everybody's jealous of M. She's so beautiful. She's just like Princess Diana. Maybe all of this is because he doesn't have any talents. Yeah, I think he's just a dumb prince. Yeah, he literally doesn't know anything. And so what he's realizing is like, wow, now that I'm not just receiving millions of dollars because I was born with royal blood flowing through my veins, now that I'm in America, I realize
Wait for it.
I have to have a talent if I'm going to keep raking in these millions to support this multi-million-dollar Montecito compound that me and my wife have purchased. And I don't actually have any talents. Oh my God. Imagine being Prince Harry. He has no talents. He has nothing to bring to the free market. So what is he going to do? He's
Stop it.
going to stretch victimhood for as long as he possibly can. And so he's going to be a full-time little bitch. And if you would like to watch him be a little bitch full-time and you have $33.99 to spare, well, let me tell you guys, let me tell you guys where you can go. You can join the Canadian doctor and the author, Gabor Mate. And I think I'm going to pay to laugh. I don't know. I feel like I have to see it now. I want to see it. I'm interested. And he's got me.
Here it comes.
I'm amazed. I want to see how long this can go on for, how long he can keep crying, and how many people are going to keep continuing to give him and his wife millions and believing that they're victims as they live in a multi-million-dollar compound in Montecito, California.